In fact, this has been a topic that has recurred throughout the course of the day. Privacy and security is an important aspect that must be considered and looked at very closely. And we are going to put the microscope on this very topic for the next 20 minutes or so. Some of the topics that we'll be discussing are the Middle East privacy laws. Why is it necessary to have this privacy? And how we can incorporate privacy and entrench it firmly in privacy chatbots. I'm very pleased to announce our speaker, Sharmistha Chatterjee, who is a data science evangelist at Publicis Sapient. Sharmistha, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Unicorn Media for introducing me and giving me a platform to speak about privacy in machine learning. Let's look at today's agenda. So we will talk about privacy mainly, and we'll also touch base among other ethical practices, including fairness. We will see the Middle East laws and see how important it is to have privacy. Otherwise, we'll end up paying millions of dollars as fine, or we can even end up in having imprisonment inside the jail. So after that, we'll touch base upon how do we build distributed and scalable systems for enterprise AI for chatbots, incorporating privacy at every stage. Here we will give an example within a Google Cloud platform how we can build it. And lastly, on the appendix, I'll quickly touch base upon building a fair ethical chatbot using ethical AI text from Kaggle. So in this section, we may not find time to go it through thoroughly, but the code is there in GitHub. You can download and try it out and see it how it works. So let's go next go into the next slide and see what are the key takeaways. Let's see what are the ethics, best practices, the architectural designs, and the research results. Next. So let's look at next. Yeah. So let's see, there are several attacks where we see the chatbot's privacy have been violated. What are those attacks? Delta Airlines have filed a big lawsuit against 24/7 AI, where hackers change the source code of the chatbots. Can we imagine if hackers come and change the source code of the chatbot, means what I am left with? There is no user privacy. The TA.ai, Microsoft chatbot, abused President Obama. It was suggested that Hitler was right and even called feminism a disease. So these are the kind of malpractices the chatbots have been doing. And even that has been phishing attacks from the Tinder, which is a dating apps. So there will be spam attacks saying that these are not the right persons whom we can date. Next. And even in voice bots, not only chatbots, we can see adversarial attacks on the speech, and that the yes gets translated to no, and by adding noise. So let's see how can we help to prevent these attacks, or what are the consequences if we can't prevent those. Next. So this privacy and is mainly concerned with protective confidential information, and what are those? These are bank details, age, credit card. So let's see at a wider level. Next, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, and what are the ethics? Like, are the chatbot answering the right ethical questions? When I am asking as an end user, tell me something about the service. Is the chatbot biased? Is the chatbot have a transparent algorithm inside it? Are it addressing the correct stakeholders? Are the practices by which it is responding are ethical, or it is just biased towards one sector of the community or one sector of providers when we have multiple providers coming into the business? So let's look at how we can incorporate both privacy and fairness while building chatbots. Next. And why it is important, since we are into the Middle East market, let's see what are the Middle East laws. So we see that QFC data protection regulation law, which is of the same kind like the GDPR, which the European community has come up with. So there will be imprisonment up to 4 years, and we can end up spending 2 to 3 million riyals if we violate privacy. It means we fail to protect the user's sensitive information, or even if we share user information without taking the consent of the respective users. This is violation of privacy, and it is not only restricted to Qatar financial sector or entities which involve around that, but it is widespread across other Middle East areas or regions, like the DIFC data protection, like the Dubai healthcare city. So the DIFC data protection laws concerns the Dubai healthcare city. Then the data protection, the Sharia law, so which addresses the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or the Bahrain law, data protection law. So in Bahrain also, you will say you will end up paying 2,000 to 3,000 BHD currency, or even the laws are so strict that we end up in 1 year imprisonment, or even daily violation of this may end up in daily penalties. So all these laws, which have been almost in same lines of GDPR, addresses user concerns and gives a right for the user lawfulness, fairness, transparency, their purpose, their purpose of the data, why they have shared the data to the concerned platform or to the concerned service providers, should be accurately and with their consent maintained with strict privacy and confidentiality, so that now they are accountable. The persons, the data processors or the data controllers who are taking the users' data are accountable for sharing users' data. So if there is any breach, they should be rightly reporting at the right time that this so many users' data and what all data have been breached, or hijackers have taken those data. So it will be well communicated through not only to social media, but to individually to users that your data has been sacrificed. And that will end up in paying huge penalties for these companies, even imprisonment, if we don't obey the privacy laws. Let's go to the next slide. And here we see that in financial sector also, we should, this is an example. So we should abide privacy in every sector, like financial, healthcare, IoT, in every sector. And this is an example like Amazon Lex, the voice bot, how it has come up with the payment card industry data security standard, how it abides by this. And there has been a formal announcement by Amazon that it is abiding by this law, and any transactions using smart cards or credit cards are secured when you do with the Amazon Lex. So we would be expecting any bots, not only restricted to financial sector, or it should be across any sector, insurance, healthcare, any sector where we design bots or implement bots, our transaction mechanism should be very much transparent and secure. Like we should obey by the normal security standards. Next. So let's see why it is necessary that AI regulation has come up with. Is it stating that only privacy is necessary? It is also stating that fairness is equally important like privacy. And like Sundar Pichai, he has been very active in the space of Google Conversational AI, and he has been drafting the importance of bringing it at all levels of fair AI methodologies and technologies to ensure a fair marketplace, legal obligation, social responsibility, like the companies who are designing AI methodologies and implementing at a scale to audiences have social responsibility towards each and every individual, that their information is secure and it's not leaked to outsiders, as well as business requirements. So if a company is leaking information and for the sake of its own businesses, we cannot say that company is doing the right thing. It may have millions of dollars as profit, but ultimately it will end up in paying fines. So it is the business requirement also to go to obey by the privacy and fairness laws. And we can see in the graph, like the worldwide map, like almost all the countries have come up with their individual privacy laws, fairness practices, and it's being widely practiced across the world, and even in Middle East, it has been incorporated based on the laws which we have discussed. Next. So, and when we design those, we have to ensure that bots are being transparent and they have maintained the trust of the users. The privacy laws are governed. The agents, like the agent personal profiles, are not biased to anybody or towards any individual sex. And that's how we can incorporate, like the treatment towards different types of users. Their concerns are addressed at the bottom of the heart of the systems, and not any racist or homophobic or sexual languages are emitted by the bot. So in order to do that, we should expect the bot to be having a neutral response and ethical and an acceptable response strategy based on which is based on the market. Like if it is a demographics, like if it is a Middle East market, we should not be expecting anything like a demographic response that is corresponds to some other market. So we have to understand the demographics of the individual country, in the individual customers, and accordingly the bot has to address those issues and respond accordingly. Next. So let's see what are the different information that can get leaked. So first is the direct identifier, that is the name, address, social identity. Some of the indirect identifiers with a date of birth, zip code, medical record is very important for any hospital, should protect those. And data linked to multiple individuals, like movie preferences, rental preferences, housing preferences, data not linked to any individual, like census data, survey data, market research survey. So anything which we leak it without users' consent is unlawful and unethical. So that's how and data related to individuals, like sometimes we can expose the user location, get the weather, and try to find out what's the user location. These are all unfair, unethical, and non-private means of developing a chatbot. Let's go to the next slide. And so, as we have talked about, so we have to have two-factor authentication, like the authentication when the chatbot is given, and corresponding the email or mobile authentication. The characters have to be, the bot is not being like learning a particular set of character or a racist character. It should be agnostic of the race or sex of the individual. The data validation procedures, when we store the chatbot logs, do we have proper ACL control looks, that who is looking at the data? Are the data properly masked, and are we able to unmask the data and are able to look at the data? If so, this is not unethical and this is unprivate, and we are violating the privacy laws which we have discussed. So we have to be very careful. Are we maintaining SSL encryption? So many of the bots are integrated into messenger apps. So end-to-end encryption are this maintained, or we are violating anywhere? So we have to look for every points where the data can be leaked, and the objective is to abide by authentication and authorization. So we can have timeouts, that after this time the user is logged out of the chatbot. And messaging cards, scoring a secure messaging scorecards. So these are a mechanism of determining the metric, how much I will assign a score to a chatbot, how much secure and private and fair it is. So there has been some of the studies, and there are a lot of records available over the internet. You can go through that, how much Skype is secured, how much Messenger Teams app is secured. So all these apps have been rated across different parameters. Can they recognize anonymous users? Can they recognize contacts? What's the level they protect the user confidential information? So these parameters and KPIs has to be incorporated while building the chatbot or the voice bot. Next. So this is here you see that the transparency, like while building the interfaces, we have to be transparent. We have to ask that, do you want your birthday to be shared? Do you want your location to be shared? Asking the user, and the ability to be getting forgotten, is that information can be forgotten. It should not be remembered. The chatbot should not remember it, or the voice bot should not remember it. Encrypted storage, anywhere personal information is stored, it should be encrypted, and proper ACL means the controllers who is accessing the information, that has to be there. Only the administrator or the person who has right privileges can address those records. The retrieval, sometimes it is necessary that there are some problems in the systems, the debug systems, the debug logs needs to be seen. So are we able to retrieve those information? When we put it in think of the context of enterprise AI, when there is large scale like SAP, they will handle so many employees, so many outside interaction with the voice or chatbots. We may not know where it went wrong. So retrieval is also important, the retrieval of the mass data. And having said that, the entire design has to be privacy driven, the voice bot and the chat bot. Let's go to the next slide. And if you think of voice bot, then we have two phases of authentication. One is the active and the passive. Active is it can be done through the IVR, because time taken is almost less, like 10 seconds, while the passive biometric information it records some of the customer's words or voice, and it takes a longer time, and it can be done to the call center agent. So these are always stored in the knowledge base system of the voice bots, and every time it should, with the paraphrase or with the customer's voice, it should identify that is the right person whom the access is given. Next. And if we think of a generic privacy-driven system, sometimes people who are using the bots, like the chatbots or the voice bots, are themselves not aware that what are the privacy things I can take part in order to protect my system. So sometimes making them aware that you delete the history, or set a time limit that after this time limit the history should get deleted. And so also sharing whether your private information, you're ordering something through Alexa or through Google Home, the opt out means you are not opting out to share this with your other private device or your devices or to other accounts or to other friends and who are there in network. Turn on audible alert, so whenever there is a sound, this device gets turned on, and if the device keeps on recording some of the information which people are speaking around home. So these audible alerts help you to detect some other noise and be alert that these sounds are getting recorded. Mute button, and then the account security, like two-phase authentication we have talked about. And account security, you encrypt, means you encrypt all the things what you want to encrypt, any voices, or have a strong password paraphrase to secure your personal account, even the account, the personal account where your bank details are stored. Never link that account to Alexa or Google Home. And pause all activity if there is any suspicion that something is going wrong, as I will be talking about some confidential information at home. Pause all activity. You don't know whether what is the voice was recording, and if your internet connection or VPN is not secured, all this gets leaked into the outside world. So it's duty of both the provider who is developing the chatbot as well as who is installing and using it at home to have a well-defined private and secure system. Next. And this is, you see that there's an entity-based filtering and transformation where people might be asking the bot that is there a hotel available at Milan or any specific location. Then the bot may learn that, oh, the user is at this location. So before passing it to the NLP engine, means before passing it to the natural processing engine, that location should be abstracted. So if the bot has to respond in a generic, very abstracted way, oh, sorry, I don't know, there is no hotel available in this location of the Europe, or I don't know your location. It should not again pass it on to the backend or the database where it might get stored. The user's location gets stored. Next. And same with the when we talk about privacy preserving entity-based search encryption. So whenever search terms like this sensitive information like location or any details, bank details, account details come into picture, that should be encrypted with a public key or searchable encrypted key. So there are different kinds of mechanism. One is the public key encryption technology, where with the private and the public key, the client, the mobile device will encrypt those data, and the public key will be common to the client and the server. So when it is passed on to the server will try to search those entity terms and try to find out, decrypt that data with the public key and try to see whether that match is there. Again, the abstraction has to be there. It has to say, cannot say and pass it to the backend, the user location or any sensitive credit card or any information. So only the abstraction should be there, and the bot has to accordingly generate a neutral response and give it to the user. Next. So these are the things, like you can see that location, visibility, any private information, the bot has to take user consent, that whether it can take this user, is the user happy? Do you find, can I take your location? Are you happy? And can I share your birthday? So these are different types of examples that because these all come from the laws. The laws say that take user consent. That is one of the things in designing the bot interfaces. Next. Yeah, how do we put it into the enterprise architecture? So we have to seek that the bot logic can be on the private or on the premise. On-premise means on the cloud. And any sensitive information that we are talking again and again should not reach our database, where we are storing unencrypted or anonymized, or even we are masking the data without user consent. We cannot store those information, and has to leave and all insensitive information encrypted before leaving the on-premise environment. So when it go to the backend, if we at all we need to store, it should be encrypted. And that's how we address different types of the user satisfaction, the business requirement, the sales, customer loyalty, all those things. If you see, and we have it in Publicis Sapient, we develop those, and we have the frameworks. We have with deep learning and all sophisticated algorithms, we do that, and that's how we build our bots for enterprises. Next. And this is, you see, again, the same thing, but in a more illustrated diagram, seeing the online messaging. If on the right-hand side, you see the online messaging where you can have different types of plugins and the web chat, and here the bot connector will be there. And this part is, the left hand side is public cloud and the right hand side is the private cloud. So anything on the private cloud should be encrypted. So here you see the runtime engine, like the dialog flow or the NLP engine. So anything coming onto the between the private or the public cloud has to be encrypted, and we should avoid sending much data or the private information from this to there. And the bot connector will be there on the public cloud, but the internal logic, everything should be there, which can be developed using n number of technologies, should be there on the on-premise cloud. And this is the backend for SAP. This is a same kind of architecture that SAP is implementing with enterprise AI and to design private systems. Next. Yeah, so same thing, but this diagram is to show that how this is a versatile kind of a system in terms of Microsoft Azure, how it is looking at the Azure directory, how SAP Conversational AI is able to scale in an enterprise architecture with single sign-on. So a single sign-on will enable customers to log into the bot, and the system should be very much friendly to the entire ecosystems in terms of directory, Active Directory, what are the things it is looking at the backend, and the data exchange should be very much secure in every piece of the component. So no data leakage to outside world about the customers. Next. Yeah. And this is in terms of if anybody has any idea or they want to develop a secure enterprise and fair chatbot, should follow. This is entirely done with Google Cloud platform. So you should look at different stages like solutions, virtual assistants, and then we have the agent assistants, and then we have the virtual contact center. So differently, employee level, agent level, customer level. Then we have the different type of channels where we can communicate. So every step, if we think of, we have to maintain privacy as well as the fairness. And then we have the tools and knowledge base. This is more of knowledge base systems, virtual assistants, knowledge AI. And then we have the analytics platform, and then we have the enterprise. See, and the enterprise is the most important for security, and whether you put it on premise or you put it on private cloud. And the compliance, are we compliant with the concerned country where we are hosting the chatbot? Is it on is it on Middle East, or is it on Europe, wherever it is? So we should be confident that wherever we are implementing, we have the proper security and fairness mechanisms. Next. Yes, and this is the main thing, consistent virtual personality. So we have to be careful that what the bot is not imitating any specific personality. So otherwise we will end up in getting legal troubles. The data sets, are we tested the data sets? But if you're training the bot with specialized data sets, are these data sets private and fair? So many times it happens that we train with unfair data sets. So that should not be the case. And system gaming, is it learning something like that? We have saw the Tinder AI. It's spamming, the bot is spamming. So is it doing any gaming? And that gives confidence on the customers. They establish a trust with our enterprise AI bot. So that is the main thing. And that's how we build our business, gain customer loyalty, and increase our revenue. Next. Yeah, so this is the same thing, just only the thing is that we have included here, if you see, DLP system, that is the data loss prevention API. For Google Cloud, we have this feature rightly available. So any sensitive information we are storing, we should ensure that we are passing to the DLP. And we have dialogue flow, sentiment analysis, speech recognition, text recognition, all these things incorporated in building the fair and ethical chatbot. Yeah, next. Yeah, so this is the thing, this is the future looking like. And we have automatic payments, social media, healthcare, omni contact center, and there we should be introducing our private and secure and fair bots in those enterprise AI architecture. Next. And that's how the future look like, and we should be very much confident and aware of the practices that we are following, and whether the bots are integrated at Messenger, Skype, or different messaging platforms, or even in the apps. It will define also the app level privacy. The app level privacy is also governed by the bot's privacy features, and then it should not be the bot AI engine access Trojan horses for enabling owners to have, so that the conversation is private and fair between between the platform and the end users. Next. done. So we have done built a model using conversational AI text, and we have tested the fairness across different groups. These are some of the results. Maybe it will be too long to discuss, but if you have, anybody can download from the GitHub. It's fully ensured. You can see, just next slide. Just let's walk through the results, some of the results. These are training, validation, and test data set. And next slide. Yeah, so we have used TensorFlow optimization constraint optimizer, and we have built on positive and negative, false positive, false negative, different constraints, applied it, and let's go to the next. This is how we have, these are the libraries needed. Next, go to the next slide. And these are some of the results what we have seen. Different minority groups, they should not get neglected. Their proportion should properly come out, so that whenever there is an hidden misunderstanding that the bot is behaving only recognizing minority groups or majority groups, we should be careful. No, the data is also fair for the minority groups, races, so that the bot is fair. So next. And these are some of the results. You can, if anybody wants to catch up with me later, we can talk, but it's we cannot go into so many details, but the code is available. Yeah, and the references. Thank you. Yeah, question?
Right. If there are any questions in the questions tab, I think we can take a look. But if there aren't any questions, then at this stage, Sharmistha, I would like to thank you very much for being a part of the Voice Tech Summit Middle East and sharing with us your experience and knowledge on privacy, which is an extremely important subject.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And if any of our viewers would like to interact with Sharmistha on a one-on-one, she is available in the VIP booth and the reception area backstage.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sharmistha.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed to our exclusive workshop on how to easily build engaging conversations with social robots. This presentation is brought to you by Furhat Robotics, which is our gold partner.